Hello, everyone. Welcome to my week 5 confessions video. If you haven't yet, if you don't know me, my name is Pastor Jason. I do the faith and football blog. It's combining my passions of faith, fantasy, or football, and writing. And so it's kind of a fantasy football help advice thing I'm doing. And hey, if you don't understand this, if you're at your church it's lacking in this area, understand that fantasy football is a small group. Fantasy football, you get a group of people that are together 15 to 17 weeks of the NFL season. So that's kind of the start. That's a basis to start a small group. So I would encourage you as a church, if you're not doing something to utilize this very popular game with thousands of people that play it. Um, I would encourage you to do so. Find some way to get involved in it, and of course, you're going to need someone other than you in your church who plays and who gets excited about it. Um, it may even be a way for your church to reach out in the community. So it's just an idea throwing out there. It's kind of what birthed the idea for this blog and this video. Right now, also just know I'm kind of kicking around the idea and starting to work on a fantasy football small group curriculum that I'm working on. I'm just beginning at the very beginning stages of that. So with that being said, each week I do a confessions video. So on Thursdays I put out a help guide article. It gives you my ideas of players you should start, should sit. They're just suggestions. I don't control your team. You make the final say to who's going to play in your team that week. Um, but then on Wednesdays before I release the new article, I always go back to the old one, and we kind of recap the devotional. But also, I give myself grades on for some of my selections, and I confess the ones that I missed on. Um, so with that being said, let's dive right in. For my quarterbacks last week, I gave myself a C grade. Matt Ryan, I got a C for him. I had him in the must start category, and he threw for 285 and a touchdown. And the Pittsburgh defensive pressure actually got to him, kind of rattling or kind of slowed down that passing attack, and which was surprising because the Pittsburgh defense really hadn't stopped anyone yet. I gave myself a C though because he was just shy of 300 yards and he was able to get a touchdown. So you still got some points from him. But even though I had him in the must start, I had him in the must start category, so you were probably expecting more points than what you got. Um, so that C kind of hurt you. And sometimes when I do these confessions too, know that it's not just always my bad grade. Sometimes I give myself a pat on the back, like Andrew Luck. I gave myself an A. I had him in the good idea to start category last week against the Patriots. He went for 365 and 3 touchdowns. And um, normally against the Patriots, you're kind of iffy when it comes to your quarterback. Sometimes they give up a bunch of yards. Sometimes they just pummel your quarterback to death. But Luck, the sheer number of times that they've had to throw it the last couple of weeks, um, it's kind of actually putting Luck almost in the must start category because again, I think he had at least 50 plus attempts in the last 2 games. So, but 365, 3 touchdowns. So I gave myself an A for Luck. Um, that was a great one. I gave myself a D for Kirk Cousins. I had him in I think, playing with fire category, which means, don't, be cautious if you do start him. Um, I figured he would be slowed down a little bit, but no, he still was able to. He threw for 301 yards and a touchdown. Still not it wasn't the same number of touchdowns performance that he had against the Rams, but it's still one of those where if you had him in, you're pleased. Also, Blake Bortles, I had him in I can't remember if it was the fire category or the sit category or the don't start if you start him if you won't lose category, and man, he went off for 430 yards and a touchdown. I think a lot of it was due to the fact they were playing from behind, trying to play catch up. Um, but some big numbers from Bortles, so it kind of made me look dumb for that one. All right, so here's our scripture reference from the devotional last week. Our devotional last week was called "Looking for Someone with Experience." It's based on this verse from 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12, and I'm reading from the New Revised Standard Version. It says, "Let no one despise your youth, but set the believers an example in speech and conduct, and love and faith and purity." Um, so that's kind of the verse we meditated around. We'll come back and talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit. So let's move on to my running back. Here are my running back grades. For my running backs, I gave myself a C. Zeke Elliott, I had him in the must start category because again, he is getting a volume of touches in both the running and passing game. I don't really know who else the Cowboys have, and he had 27 touches last game, but I gotta see because he didn't score any touchdowns and he didn't hit 100 yards and he receiving or in rushing, and so that kind of if when you say you must start somebody, he had some yards, he had the touches, but he didn't have the big yardage that you were hoping for from a guy in the must start category. Kamara, I had him must start too, and I got an F for him. Uh, his numbers were not the same. Mark Ingram came back, and man, they used him pretty much the whole game. He's the one that got the touches on the goal line. He's the one that pretty much got the bulk of the carries throughout the whole game. And part of me wonders if that was because he had fresh legs coming into it. He's been out the first 4 weeks, and while Kamara's been getting banged up a little bit, just from the sheer impact of the game, not necessarily because of injury, but just because of the physicalness of football. Michelle from the Patriots, he played against the Colts, and the Colts' rushing defense has been much better this season. Again, they're not, it's a young team. They still make some mistakes here and there, give up some big runs, but for the most part, they've played pretty well. And Michelle, he's been kind of hit or miss, and he had a big week last week, and I thought, well, the way the Colts defense is playing, he won't have a big week again this week, so that's don't start him. And well, lo and behold, the Colts are missing 8 players due to injury going into that game, including our leading tackler. And then we had another one of our linebackers go out of the game as well. On that short week, so that really hurt the Colts defense. So he was able to get 98 yards and a touchdown against the Colts defense. And so yeah, I gave myself an F for that one. Gave myself a D for Davis from the Seahawks too. Carson was supposed to be back, and he was supposed to get the majority of the carries, but I think Seattle's going to this running back by committee approach, and they have a couple backs that are very capable of it and are going to get a high volume of touches. So, Davis had 60 yards and touchdowns versus the Rams, and that's with him being the backup back. Give myself a D for him. All right, kind of going back to our Devo now. So 1 Timothy 4:12, and the focus of the Devo in connection with this verse was the idea of we're looking for someone with experience. And what that's what most businesses are looking for. And I know as a pastor who just recently became a lead pastor, was a youth pastor before that. And when I was trying to get into ministry, looking for a job as a youth pastor, the one thing I kept running into was we're looking for somebody with experience. And when you're first starting out, that's very frustrating because people, they're looking for experience, but no one's willing to give you the experience so you can gain it to get the position. And it's kind of the catch-22 of the situation. You're in a position that demands experience, but you have no way of getting it unless someone gives you a chance to get the experience. It does, and what's really frustrating about the ministry side of it, I've been working. I'm 32 years old now, and when I graduated from high school, even when I was in school still, I was working with the teens in my church. I was, on the youth council. I was, a decision maker within the youth group. When I graduated, I was a Sunday school teacher for the high school class, and and even up until the point where I actually left my church to go pursue ministry opportunities, I was working with the teens there, and but the thing was that doesn't count on your resume. You can put those things on there, but when a church is looking at your level of experience, they'll look at that and say, well, that doesn't really count. We're looking for someone who has a experience with the title of pastor and minister on their resume, and so it's very frustrating. And I'm sure some of you watch this, in the business world, it's frustrating. You're fresh out of college. You've gained all this knowledge in school. At the same time, to gain all this knowledge, you've racked up all this school debt in hopes of getting out and landing the job you've spent your the last 4 years or so getting ready for. And you're finding out through this process, the hiring process, that again, they're looking for someone with experience, and it's frustrating. It's like running your face into the wall. So we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about that and how we and how that applies to this person a little bit. So let's go to my picks for the week. So each week also I pick the matchups in the NFL. In week 5, if you go to my ESPN Pick'em thing, you're gonna notice I did bad on that. I pick against the spread, and so I didn't do very good against the spread last week. But overall, in picking winners and losers for the blog and for this video, in week 5, I went 10-5. So I've got 10 right out of the 15 games. So I felt like that was pretty good. But here are my picks for this week: the Thursday night and early Sunday games. So Thursday night, it's the Giants versus the Eagles, or the Eagles versus the Giants. Picking the Eagles in that one. I don't. The Giants have enough offensive power that they should be doing better. They're just struggling. Go watch a movie. Sorry, interruption. I'm sorry. All right. So again, so I'm picking the Eagles over the Giants in that one. See Tampa Bay versus Atlanta. This is my upset pick of the league. I think Tampa Bay goes into Atlanta and beats them and sends the Falcons to 1-5. Beats them at home and sends them to 1-5. Atlanta's struggling defensively. Yeah, go play. Go play. All right, sorry about that. So I'm picking the Buccaneers or the Falcons. This is my upset pick of the week. I think they go into Atlanta and they upset the Falcons, get the W there. Buffalo versus the Houston, picking Houston in that one. The Bears versus the Dolphins. I think the Bears win that one. That defense is stout. The offense is starting to come alive for the Bears. Watch out! I think they're one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the NFC this year so far. Pittsburgh versus Cincinnati. Cincinnati's been playing lights out all year. I think Cincinnati gets to win this one at home. And I know the Pittsburgh defense played better against the Falcons, but I just don't think the Falcons are playing very good right now. And so I think the Bengals take this one from Pittsburgh and extend their lead in the division. Chargers versus the Cleveland Browns. And guess what? I'm picking the Browns. The Browns at home versus the Chargers. The Browns have a tough defense. And again, sometimes their defense numbers are skewed a little bit just because of the amount of time on the field, because of the youth on the offensive side. But there is a different vibe about this team with Baker Mayfield on the field. And really, name a game that they were this season where they were blown out. They were in every game this season and with a chance to win. I think they've been in 3 overtime games already this year. The Browns have. So I think they beat the Chargers at home, especially the Chargers traveling across the country. I think they take this one. The Indianapolis Colts from the New York Jets. I'm picking the Colts. And if you know this, if you know me at all, if you've been watching this pretty regularly, you know I'm a diehard Colts fan. I grew up in the Indianapolis area, and so I don't pick against the Colts no matter who they're playing against. But this one, I legitimately think the Colts have a good shot of winning. I think our defense goes in and gives Darnold a lot of trouble. He's been under 200 yards the last several games. Yeah, he had 3 touchdowns last game. But again, I don't think he does that. The Colts are one of the top teams in the league when it comes to sacks. So I think they have a field day against this Jets offense. And hopefully our offense plays well enough to give us a good lead and win the game for us as well. Because that's one thing with the Colts right now. Our offense is not playing at the same level as the defense. I know last week with the Patriots, both sides looked kind of terrible. But again, you have to remember a short week with a young team and 8 players out from the lineup. So that's good. Hopefully that's different this week. Let's see, Seattle versus Oakland. I think Seattle beats Oakland. Oakland's struggling right now. I really thought after last game, Oakland was going to get things going. Things looked a lot better, and maybe that was going to kickstart their offense and get their season going. But it didn't quite work out that way. So I think Seattle puts them in more of a hole. Cardinals versus Vikings. Vikings again. I think Vikings are one of the top teams in the conference in the NFC conference this year. So I think the Vikings get the win there. Panthers versus the Redskins. Panthers go and beat the Redskins. The Panthers have quietly looked very good this season. So I think that continues. All right, moving on to grades for my receivers. I gave myself a B for receivers. It's a rare B for me. Most of the time I score a C. If you go back and watch these, I'm a C in almost every category with like one D and I think one other B. But I get a B for the receivers this week. My confessions, though, Julio Jones, I had him in the must-start category against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, come on, it's the Steelers defense. They've been giving up tons of points to receivers all year. And Julio Jones just you probably watched that game nervously, and thank God for the fourth quarter, because the fourth quarter, he was able to get 5 catches and 62 yards, but that was it for the whole game. He didn't really catch anything until fourth quarter. So I gave myself a D. Must start category. Yes, he got you some points, but not at all what you were expecting. Golden Tate again. I think I had him in the must start category. He might have been in the good category. I can't remember. I gave myself an F for him, and against the Packers, he only had 5 catches for 42 yards, and that did not help you out scoring wise. Amari Cooper again. I really believe last week the Raiders were going to get, we're starting to wake up offensively, and man, then they came out against the Chargers last week and just looked awful. And Cooper only had one catch for 10 yards. And so that again, being the guy that I told you to start, that was not a good one. That one hurt. All right. So kind of going back to our devotional now. We're talking about looking for experience and the frustration of being someone who needs experience, but no one's willing to give it to you. And this is where the verse 1 Timothy 4:12 comes into play, where it says, "Let no one despise your youth, but set the believers an example in speech and conduct and love and faith and purity." So what Paul is telling young Timothy is, don't let anyone despise you because of your lack of experience. Don't let their negative opinion in you affect your confidence. Don't let that affect the way you lead and the way you do things. Don't let that affect your hope. And that's kind of the message that God wants to give us. Don't let your lack of experience and the lack of someone wanting to give you a chance to gain that experience, don't let that discourage you. Don't let that squash your dreams. Don't let that hinder you. Um, but hold on to that dream. Hold on to that future. Keep chasing those goals you've set for yourself. Um, it sometimes the things in life that are worthwhile don't come easily. We have to work at them, and we have to be patient and allow God to open the doors for those opportunities to come. Again, I talked about my time in trying to get into ministry. It was very frustrating trying to get an opportunity to be a youth pastor. I sent resume after resume, year after year, and no one was willing to take that chance until finally one day someone was. But there was a lot of struggle, a lot of prayer, a lot of questioning God why through that whole time. But what Paul is telling us during that period of transition, we're waiting or we're hoping to someone to take that chance on us. We are to set the example in faith. We shouldn't let the opinion of others affect the goals and the things that we know God has called us to. We need to hold on to that calling. And if God's called you to do something, don't stoop to do anything else. If God's called you into the ministry, don't stoop to be a millionaire. That's not who God's called you to be. Hold on to hope and persevere through the time of waiting and through the time so God will strengthen your faith, and you will really appreciate and rejoice when the time comes and the door opens for you. Let's see. Where are we at now? Oh, Sunday game late pick. A late pick for the late afternoon games. The Rams versus the Broncos. I'm picking the Rams to continue their winning ways in that one. I think they beat the Broncos. Next up, Jacksonville versus Dallas. I'm picking the Jaguars. Again, the Dallas Cowboys really have one thing going from offense. That's Zeke Elliott. The Jacksonville Jaguars have one of the toughest defenses in the league. I know it didn't look like it against the Chiefs, but name a defense who looked stout and number one against the Chiefs. Yeah, you can't do it. The Chiefs have made everybody look silly. They're the best team in the league right now, in my opinion. Yeah, they're a little younger. They don't have quite the pieces, and the defense is not nearly as strong as the Rams. But no one has been able to slow down the Chiefs. No one. And just when you thought the Broncos had them on the ropes, the Chiefs came back and beat them. So again, I think so. Going back to Jacksonville, I think that defense, yeah, there's some cause from concern from the Chiefs game, but here's the thing: I think they bounce back. I think they limit Dallas, and I think the Jaguars get the win. Ravens versus the Titans, and I'm picking the Titans. If you know me, I'm not very big on the Ravens. I'm not sold on them. Yes, they have a great defense. Yes, they have some amazing pieces of offense, but just when you think they get it all together and you put hope in them, they always let you down. So I think the Titans are playing some good football right now. Mike Vrabel is doing a fantastic job coaching that team, and he's got them fired up and playing well. They've been very competitive this season. I think they beat the Ravens this week. All right, going to the tight ends. My grades for the tight ends, I gave myself a C for them as well. Kittle from the 49ers, he had a good week last week. Jared Cook from the Raiders, not so much. I had him in it's a good idea to start him category. I think he gets 4 catches for 22 yards against the Chargers. Again, I really thought the Raiders were going to begin to come alive, and they just flopped. All right, going Eric Ebron. Man, I had him in a good idea to start category last week, and man, 9 catches, 105 yards, and 2 touchdowns versus the Patriots. A fantastic game for Ebron. And here's the crazy thing about it: if you're watching the game, you notice he had some drops in that game. So imagine what his numbers would have looked like had he not had those drops. And that really goes for the whole Colts receiving core. if we hadn't had some of those drops later in the game or throughout the game, who knows? The game could have been much different. Um, Travis Kelce, I had him in the playing with fire category. He was able to go for 5 catches, 100 yards against the Jaguars. Now, I gave myself a D only because he didn't score a touchdown. Yes, he got 100 yards, but he didn't score a touchdown. So I was somewhat right that the Jaguars were able to slow him down a little bit, but he was still able to get some catches and some yards in there. So again, gave myself a D for that one. So, but overall, for the tight ends, I had a C. Tight ends, I had a C for that group position group. All right, primetime picks. Sunday Night Football. We have the Kansas City Chiefs versus the New England Patriots. I think the Chiefs go into New England and they hand the Patriots an L in New England this week. I know the Patriots are starting to play like the Patriots. They're starting to look a little bit better. I know Belichick's history against rookie quarterbacks, but here's the thing. Do you remember what Watson did to them last year? I think Mahomes is a much better quarterback with a much better system than what Watson has. I think the Chiefs go in and win the game. Monday Night Football, the 49ers versus Packers. This one I think would have been more exciting had the 49ers quarterback not got injured. So I think Aaron Rodgers comes out, and I think the Packers get the win here. So overall, my grade for Week 5, I gave myself a C. Average. That's good. That's good. Still maintaining that C average. Hey, it's good enough to graduate high school. So hey, that's the thing. It's good news. All right. So kind of wrap things up again for the Devo is do not let anyone despise you because of your youth, but set an example to the believers in love and faith and in purity. And remember that. Remember that as people are as you're trying to fight to get that new opportunity, and everybody's telling you, hey, we're looking for someone experienced, but we're not willing to give it to you. Set the example in that. I know it's disappointing when you're here now. I know it's a struggle when you don't get the opportunity you think you should be getting. But here's the thing: trust God in all that. Hold on to faith. Keep loving people. Don't let it affect your relationships. Don't let it affect the way you're interacting with others, and don't let it affect your relationship with God. Hang on and keep trusting through that time, because one day that door is going to open. And it's going to be amazing. But until that day comes, be patient and keep trusting in the Lord. And thank you for watching. And hey, if you haven't yet, remember, check out faithandfootball.blogspot.com. That's where you can find my Helpgate article. You can look me up on Twitter at Pastor Jason. And don't forget to check out my book on Amazon. It's called Better Together. It's looking at the relationship between you, others, and God. Check it out. You can find it as Better Together by Jason Barnett. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next week.